and the earplugs and earphones, I feel people often will have the earphones on very, very low, more for radio than anything.
Yeah.
And it's the same as what someone has in the car when they're blasting their music. It's there. They should keep it low enough so they can still hear the activities going around them, but you can enjoy your time when you're traversing from point A to point B. But it's funny with the helmets because, and I've had many arguments with people about this, in places like Amsterdam, you won't see a helmet.
Yeah.
And in versus, in Toronto, I'm starting to see a lot less helmets. And I'm finding that it's because the more bicyclists there are, the more aware the people are, the slower people are going on time in both cars and bikes. They're going a lot slower than they used to go. And people are there are less helmets that I'm seeing out there. And I'm seeing people being much more aware when people aren't wearing helmets.
Right.
And I don't know, I don't see this as an excuse to not wear a helmet.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to your earlier point of there needs to be more regulations. I don't know if helmets are the regulation for bicyclists or if it's speed. So slow down the bicyclists down to 15, I don't know. 15 kilometers an hour? I don't know. But I don't know. I know there are some very fast bicyclists without helmets, and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's a weird, I think all of these studies are going to be incredibly important over the next 10 years for this city as we see more and more people switching to bikes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just going back to the whole real estate thing, of course, would you say a lot of your friends are living in condos versus houses? Is that sort of their choice of living?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny. Another kind of interesting thing with Toronto is that you notice a lot of people who grew up in the suburbs, legitimate suburbs,
yeah.
the Whitbys and the Mississaugas and whatnot, when they're moving downtown, they move down and they often live on the other side of Front Street, down in City Place on Brenner and all those large condos down there. A lot of the people like me who grew up in downtown Toronto are also moving into condos, but we're moving more into mid-rises, so Queen West, King West, Roncy, like all those various areas, Little Italy. But yeah, we're all moving into these much more shared spaces. And it almost feels as though we're trying, I don't know if it's regression, but we're regressing back to undergrad where we all live together. But
right.
It's it's that communal lifestyle. It's that shared living space. It's the fact that you really, if you want to live where you work, where you learn, where you play kind of thing. And your house is not a place where you will spend more than maybe 9 hours a day and, 7 of them are sleeping.
Yeah.
So do we need that space?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I mean, I would say that I've certainly noticed a lot more commercial buildings being built in the downtown core, and I think that that's one of the reasons is because for a lot of millennials, they don't want to work in Mississauga. They don't want to, drive a car out into those places. They want to live in the city and they want to work in the city and they want to be able to walk to work. Now, it's funny, it poses an interesting question about some neighborhoods. As an agent, people ask me, oh, what do you think about Liberty Village? And I'll say, I don't think living in Liberty Village is a good idea, partly because I think it's going to be very difficult to walk to the downtown core from Liberty Village because there's so many people living there that I find the streetcars are so busy getting there that I'm noticing a lot of foot traffic just walking along King West. And I think a lot of it is people trying to get to their place in Liberty Village because they can't take the streetcar. It's
funny. I live on King West and I live east of Bathurst, so basically Bathurst and King. Okay. And I walk to work every day, and I do see a lot of people. The streetcar, by the time it gets to Bathurst, is slammed.
Yeah.
And you can outwalk 2 or 3 streetcars before you get to the financial district. And, as someone, for Next City Prize, we focus on public space and enjoying public space and the ability to create these spaces where people can live, work, and together and happily and with high quality. And at places like Liberty and like City Place, they're disconnected. And it's not because of the rail lines. It's not because of Front Street. And I think a lot of people say that it is. It's the rail lines. No, it's that no one thought that the network of walkability was capable from these areas. They figured people would be using these spaces at downtown core and then perhaps driving out to Mississauga to work. Right. Versus the fact that people would actually use these spaces that are a good 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers away from the downtown, like the financial district, but you can walk that. Yeah. When people want to. so they didn't connect properly. And I first moved home back to Toronto. I briefly lived on Sudbury Street, and I remember saw the Metro, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, that's great. There's, I feel there's been a grocery drain in this area.
Yeah.
Freshco, but again, it's separated. And it took me probably 30 minutes to get to Metro because I had to go all the way around to get into Liberty.
Wow.
And I was like, this is not planning. Like, one can, when you see the sign, but you're disconnected because no one thought the people there actually wanted to be downtown versus drive back out. And that's a problem. And I know the city is trying to do what it can to kind of redesign that neighborhood to be more conducive to downtown living, but it's going to take years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I recently had a client who said, oh, what about Liberty Village? And I said, well, there's pretty much only one street in there and one street out of there. Mm-hmm. So if you're driving your car, you're going to be stuck in this long lineup of people waiting to turn into or onto Strachan. It's a hassle.
And as a bicyclist, it's dangerous because you get a lot of people frustrated who are trying to get really quick off it, or they're coming from the highway and they're still going far too fast. And that's the only entrance, and it's very unsafe. As a bicyclist, I will not take that route. I actually go around the other way, so just simply because it's just not safe to go in that way.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense, absolutely. And so can you tell us a little bit about Next City Prize, actually, and what you guys are doing?
Sure. So we build great public spaces. In short, we're a competition for people under the age of 35 who live in Toronto that are interested in design and development and planning, basically city building. And our competition is each year it's in a different space, and it's oftentimes undefined. The large grand prize, though, is what you build, we will be working with the city to have it built. So it's kind of creating these great spaces that are actually built. So get creative and know that this will happen. And then we have other various categories where we will work with the winners of the other various categories to connect them to related categories, companies, and again, work to get these great ideas built. And we've been doing it now this is our third year.
Oh, wow.
First year was, I know, it's crazy. Time flies. Our first year was with Yonge Street Redux, and that was the winner. So now the winners are working with Yonge Street Redevelopment. Second year was Sunnyside Park, Dockside, and that's currently in motion for being put together. This year we're going kind of next level, and Distill, which is the main company that started Next City Prize, they've started a number of summits and Next City Talks, and then we, again, as we do every year, we complete it with a Next City Night and awards ceremony where we take over an unknown space in the city and we throw an epic gala party awards where we just have the best of the best of food and drink. We've got, Oyster Boy was our major sponsor, Thoroughbred, Steam Whistle, Tromba Tequila, just incredible visionaries. Get Fresh Company has been our clothing company and they are doing amazing things in Toronto and around the world. And my goal with it is there's so much more to city building than bricks and mortar, and then the bottom line and the monetary side. And mind you, I do that every day in my job, but so much more to it. And incorporating the food, the wine, the stills, the clothing, the music, what have you, and getting people excited about their city and what their city has to offer. That is what makes the best of city building. When you're walking down King Street and you look into the offices and you see, or I guess Queen Street, you see Get Fresh Company and their new clothing and their YYZ hats, and then the people inside doing the work and working super hard and seeing all these people walking around and they get inspired to do something else. That is city building.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Can you elaborate a little bit about, you had mentioned the person who won last year was a project in Sunnyside. So what are they going to be doing to help build the city in that area?
So one of the parts of it is, our chief city planner, Jennifer Keesmatt's been a huge supporter of Next City Prize, and what she what her focus is with the winners of the grand prize is that an iteration of that win will be then incorporated into a city project or a redevelopment plan that's underway in that area, so that the winners will be able to work with and learn. The gist of it, part of the gist, the big thing is, building these public spaces that I think personally are lacking in the city. And I could talk about the great things that Toronto till we're all blue in the face. Love it. But we are lacking in a lot of these public spaces, especially in the downtown core, for people to really enjoy. Also is there's so much talent out there, and it's so competitive. So if we can help people get their foot in the door toward being a planner, being a developer, being a designer, a landscape architect, an architect, that tenfold is our benefit. And that's where I know Kismet has been very, very involved in, is seeking out this talent and utilizing it in the public sector.
Perfect. That's great. And I think you mentioned you live in the King West area.
Yes.
And why did you choose that particular area of the city to live in?
I love the mix of the old and the new. Ala is another big supporter of Next, and they work a lot with the brick and mortar and kind of the old bones and new interiors. And I think that's the most beautiful thing with the city, where you can walk into a building and that building's been there for 100+ years, but the interior is all new and sustainable. And I think that's just so beautiful. I wanted to be able to walk or bike to work if necessary. I love the sound of the streetcar. I love the hustle and bustle. I grew up in the Annex. I used to live in Little Italy. I've always lived in the West End, always lived in the downtown core. And I just think it's the best part of it, I guess, for me, is being able to walk to Chinatown and Kensington on weekends and get my groceries, and then being able to kind of have my friends over for rooftop barbecues, and then walk out onto King Street or Queen Street or walk to Oddington. Everything is just so convenient, and there's never a dull moment on King Street.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very busy, and there are tons of restaurants now, and I'm actually surprised, even just in the last 5 years, how much it's changed in terms of the number of restaurants and bars down there. But one other thing I started to notice is how many development proposal signs I'm seeing in that neighborhood now. And I consider that to be a neighborhood that's pretty built up. There's already a lot of condo buildings down there. So when I look at some of the development proposals, I think I've seen one on King Street beside the Starbucks, and I noticed a couple on Wellington. I think, wow, what is this neighborhood going to look like 10 years from now? Well,
the neighborhood is protected, but I don't know if you've heard of the kind of the three kings. I guess either two kings or three kings. It depends on who you're talking to. But it was a very smart call made about, 10 years ago. I could be wrong on that one, but it's the King Bathurst, King Spadina, and King Parliament, and those three kings were sought out by developers as these three nodes that are prime for great building and great development. And you're now seeing kind of the fruit of the labor of pushing these in the City of Toronto Planning Department as being these are the great spaces for density and intensification, because you are out of the financial district. You're within a walk-friendly area. We've got all these older, at the time, very underutilized old factory warehouse buildings that just have so prime for potential. And then you're also surrounded by these great spaces like the parks in the area, Trinity Bellwoods and Chinatown and Kensington, Spadina, and just all these great arterial streets that deserve the attention of a walk-friendly, neighborhood community.
Sure. No, that definitely makes sense. Now, for you, do you rent or own? I think earlier you said you are renting now. Is that correct?
Yes, I am renting, yes.
And how come? Is that just because you're sort of just not ready yet? You haven't found the place you want?
Yeah, I'm not ready yet. I know what I want. It's definitely going to be a house that will be broken up, and I will keep it broken up and rent within until I'm ready to kind of renovate and make it my own. I'm just not there yet. I'm sure I speak with the majority of people now. Is I have loans and I want to pay them first.
Right.
And Bank of Mom and Dad. They're still reasonably open when I need it. I'm happy, and I love my apartment. It's cheap for exactly where I am, and it's great.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you so much, Kendra, for chatting with us today. Anything else you wanted to say sort of before we close things off today?
No, I guess it's, if anyone's interested in Next, just, go to the website, Next City Prize, and submit your competition. You never know, you might become the next big builder.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thanks so much, Kendra, for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thanks everybody for listening, and you can find me at devel@bosleyrealestate.com or at Twitter at Devel Morrison or on Instagram at Devel Morrison. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye for now.
You've been listening to The Morrison Report, hosted by Devel.